Okay, breaking news. As predicted by the Mark Dolan show, the peace summit between King Charles and Prince Harry is on. I can tell you that Harry has entered Clarence House. Of course, he's just here for 4 days in the UK. The King has returned from Scotland and the meeting is on now. Almost all of the other pundits said it was never going to happen. We predicted it on this show, as always, ahead of the curve. Let me give you some quick details because what I've had to do is I've had to put today's show to bed, and I recorded it earlier today. And during today's show, I predicted that this would likely happen and that we had a window of 20 hours in which the two men had an opportunity to meet. So you'll see that from today's video. But here are the facts. Prince Harry and King Charles have reunited in a private meeting during the Duke of Sussex's trip to the UK. Harry arrived in London on Monday for the World Child Awards before heading to Nottingham on Tuesday, Imperial College London today. But after Harry's whirlwind trip and after months of speculation, the estranged father and son have reunited. It is official at Clarence House. Now, Charles arrived at the royal residence at 3:45 after flying in from Balmoral. So after months of speculation and the bold call on the part of the Mark Dolan show that yes, this meeting was going to happen, here we are. History is playing out. So what happened with today's show? I've recorded today's show in which I speculated that the two men had a window of 20 hours before Harry leaves to actually get together. And this video is about my perspective on whether or not that would be a good idea, whether it's going to happen or not, and what the consequences may be. So here's today's show, but I just wanted to run in at the beginning of the show because the rest of it was recorded earlier to say, we got this. We called it on the Mark Dolan show. Enjoy today's program and just try to reflect on the earth-shattering nature of this major development. The Peace Summit is on. This is not a drill. It is the understanding of the Mark Dolan show that a desperate Prince Harry is still holding out hope of a face-to-face meeting tonight or tomorrow morning with King Charles, with insiders telling us that he has literally been begging the monarch's people for an audience with the king for months now. Now, this follows reports from the London Evening Standard that Harry is pining for his home country of Britain and has been reaching out to his UK friends for many months now to see if they can help to bridge the gap between his old life and his new life. So, by our calculations, the next 20 hours or so are the only opportunity for a peace summit between Charles and Harry to actually happen. That's right. The clock is ticking. We've got 20 hours till D-Day. Now, it would be the first meeting between Charles and Harry since February of last year. Let's go through the logistics of the day. Let's see how it's all playing out. Now, the King prepared to board a private jet from Aberdeenshire at around 2 p.m. today. That was following a stay at Balmoral, the royal estate in Scotland. And of course, Charles went there to acknowledge the memory of his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth, who passed away 3 years ago. Now, the King was spotted arriving at Clarence House at 4 p.m. today, having landed at RAF Northolt in West London around 3 p.m. following the flight from Aberdeenshire. Whilst Charles was in Scotland, of course, Prince Harry has been in the UK and he's been in London. And specifically this morning, he was at Imperial College London at their Centre for Blast Injury Studies, because, of course, he was there to meet people that have been injured in the military, lost limbs, that kind of thing. What I would say is, are these folks, these ex-military personnel who have been through so much physically and mentally, have they not suffered enough without Harry turning up to, press the flesh and say, oh, hello, I'm Prince Harry. I've come to cheer you up a little bit. Good luck with that. Good luck being cheered up by the world's least happy millionaire who could no doubt convince someone with no limbs that he's the victim, not them. Anyhow, so he was there, boring everyone to tears at Imperial College London. But with Harry flying back to America tomorrow afternoon, and with Charles now in London this afternoon, this evening and tomorrow, it means that both men are currently in the same town for the next 20 hours. So the next few hours in particular are absolutely critical because it's the only way that this encounter can happen. The Duke, Prince Harry, is expected to have around 3 hours to spare for such a meeting today between his two engagements in London this afternoon. So Harry's got 3 hours to spare in the afternoon, and then sometime tomorrow morning before attending another final event ahead of his flight back to California. So there's a window of opportunity this afternoon, this evening, and tomorrow morning. We really are up against the clock, and for Harry, it is a race against time. Now, let's be honest, Harry will meet Charles at any time of the day or night, okay? And that blast clinic where he was at Imperial College, he'll be out of there in 3 seconds, straight into an Uber over to Clarence's house if Dad texted him and said, yep, let's do it, it's on. Because Harry is desperate. He is so desperate for this meeting because this is the last significant chance to meet his old man until he returns to the UK and Birmingham in the summer of 2027 for Invictus, when the world could look like a very different place. So July 2027, that is the next scheduled time when Harry is due to come back to the UK. By the way, we're hearing that Harry will be issuing invitations to Charles and William and Catherine to attend the Invictus Games, which, as we know, are just a vehicle now for Harry's ego. Good luck with that, Harry. As the Americans say, and in particular in New York, the New Yorkers will say it, forget about it. It's not going to happen. They are not going to come to Invictus in 2027 in July. Forget about it. It ain't going to happen. But that's when he's next officially in the UK. So therefore, that obviously opens the door to some kind of meeting then. The issue you've got is that that's almost 2 years away. That's a long, long time. The world could look like a very different place. And you've got Charles, who's battling a serious illness. Charles has cancer and he's in his 70s. There's always the danger. If they don't meet in the next 20 hours, there is the danger, and I say this with no happiness whatsoever, and I actually think it's tragic, but there's an incredibly dark chance that the two men may never meet again. This is what is at stake for Harry. It's I'm afraid conceivable that if they don't meet in the next 20 hours, they don't meet at all. And I say that because Charles is in his 70s and he's battling cancer, and Harry, that prize numpty, is all the way over in California in Montecito. Montecito! So if Charles were suddenly taken ill, it'd be a race against time. You can't get out of America that quickly. I'm afraid. You'd need to book a flight. You've got to get yourself to LAX airport. Montecito is not that close to LAX. Probably looking at an hour and a half in the car, at least. And I, by the way, have just come back from the United States. And it was blue murder getting into LAX airport. It's very busy. I had the Ford Mustang convertible car, which was my vehicle of choice, because I've just come back. As you will know, regular viewers of the show will know that the Mark Dolan show, we were in America. We did a US road trip. And we did daily videos from some of the most beautiful places in America. And we did the whole trip in a Ford Mustang. The reason being that in terms of our rental car, it had to be American. I wasn't going to risk life and limb in a Toyota or a Citroen or a Renault or some death trap of a French car. I wasn't going to go German. Auf die Treppe schnell. Because I think Mercedes-Benz has gone right downhill. They have gone right downhill. I insisted on renting American, and so I picked up a Ford Mustang convertible, which is just about the best engineered economy range sports car in the world. What a machine. And I'll tell you, if Harry wants to if something happens to Charles and Harry wants to get back to the United Kingdom quick, good luck with that. Because when I drove, I was staying at a very nice place called the Beverly Laurel Hotel in Los Angeles. And it's a good 1950s style hotel with people there that had clearly been there since the 1950s, with food that had been perhaps prepared in the 1950s. It's a vintage hotel, let me tell you. Everything is ancient in there, but that's fine. It was very well priced, let me tell you. And it's near the farmer's market, which I thoroughly enjoyed. We haven't got time for this. I've got to get through this. So the bottom line is that I pitched up at LAX. First of all, it took me an hour and a half to get from well, what part was it? Where is the farmers market in LA? I'm in central LA. I've forgotten where I am. Maybe about a mile and a half from the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So a very well located place. And that's fine. And we took an hour and a half to get to the airport, and we got to the rental, and then we got on a bus, a shuttle bus. Now, I don't know if Harry will be on a shuttle bus or not. He's so broke, he probably may need to get the bus now. And then it took us another 45 minutes to get to the airport. At one point in the shuttle bus, we weren't even at the terminal. And I was worried. And I said to the driver, what are we going to do? And he said, if I were you, I would get out and walk. Well, he didn't say that. He was an American man. He said, if I were you, he said, you know what, big guy? If I was you, if you're looking for like an idea of how to get out of this situation, what I would recommend to you is to get your ass out of this shuttle bus and get your ass on that sidewalk. Use the two legs that the good Lord gave you and toddle your little tush to the terminal building on your own steam. That's what I recommend. I do. I'm not implying that the man was high that was driving the bus. Although if I drove a shuttle bus at LAX airport, I'm not sure I'd ever be sober. It's not an easy life. But he said, get out, big guy. It's quicker to walk. Which is not the greatest vote of confidence in the American transport infrastructure, but that's fine. So if something happened to Charles and Harry has to get to England quickly, good luck with that. Because let's imagine that Charles, he's got cancer and he's in his 70s. And God forbid, this is my king, folks. I'm not hastening his departure. I want him to live for decades. I'd happily have him there till 100. I think he's a good man. And I think he's doing a good job. Not with his family, but definitely with the country. He's doing a great job. I like him. I like Charles. I think he's a very elegant man. I love how he dresses. I've never seen Charles dress badly. He's a very elegant man. I really mean that. And he's got dignity. He's intelligent. He made the right call about organic farming. He was ahead of the curve on that one. He's got the Duchy Originals, which is a very successful regenerative agricultural business. And, you can't have it both ways with the royals. Sometimes people say, well, they're useless. They don't do anything. Well, Charles has been very active as the Prince of Wales and as king and has set up a successful business. He must be the first monarch in centuries to have been entrepreneurial. So he's an impressive guy. And, but he's an older man and he's got this cancer. What if he has a sudden heart attack? I mean, I know this is a horrible conversation. I know it is. Well, we got to have this conversation. I'm sorry. I know some of you will be furious and let me know in the comments. I'm not wishing it on the guy. I'm just saying, you and I live in the real world. If you've got an older relative that's battling cancer, you want to be nearby and on hand if something happens. Your father is battling a disease. Charles has cancer. So what if he took ill very quickly and was hospitalized and then we lost him? Meanwhile, Harry's like, has anyone seen my passport? Meg, have you seen my passport? You print out my boarding pass. I've got it on the phone. Get a boarding pass on the phone. Also, do you want duty free? I'll get some duty free on the way back. Humpy dumpy dumpy dump. Right? That idiot doesn't even know where his passport is before something grave has happened at Buckingham Palace. So I'm sorry, it doesn't wash this idea of, I've had a lot of commentators tell me, of course they'll meet again. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. What a tune. Dame Vera Lynn, that was We'll Meet Again, which was a song about the soldiers leaving the United Kingdom in the Second World War, saying goodbye to their beautiful wives and girlfriends and saying, we'll meet again. I mean, how emotive, how emotional is that? Given the fact that, of course, some of those incredibly precious folk did not come back and they didn't meet again. Dame Vera Lynn was a war hero. She was a singer. She wasn't in the war. She wasn't a gunner in the RAF. Let's not get carried away. Forget about it. She was just a beautiful woman and singer. Think of her as like a very moral version of Madonna. Do you know what I mean? A very sort of not Catholic. Madonna is Catholic. A very religious. What am I trying to say? A very old-fashioned. She was an old-fashioned singer. She was a woman with. How dare I compare her to Madonna? Who was she like? I don't know. I can't think of a figure that was. She was just a very dignified, beautiful woman who is an incredible singer, and maybe a little bit like Marilyn Monroe, but less salacious. We'll meet again. That's your homework. Listen on YouTube or on the Apple Music or wherever you get your music from. Listen to We'll Meet Again by Dame Vera Lynn. Have a think about the meaning of those words when the soldier says goodbye to his girlfriend and wife. And sometimes, the wife is expecting a baby and he's got to go. And then they listen to that song, We'll Meet Again. There isn't a dry eye in the house. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So that's pretty rough, right? Well, of course, William, I must stop calling Harry William because that's libel. That's a slander. Harry has got to come to terms with the fact that he lives thousands of miles away in California. It's not even New York. Forget about it. It's not even New York. He's actually in California, which is even further away. It's the other side of America on the West Coast. And therefore, it'll take him ages. I mean, what's the quickest you can get from Montecito to Buckingham Palace, Clarence House, that kind of thing? What's the quickest you can get there? The turnaround is not going to be any quicker than 18 hours, I would have thought. So you need almost a day to get back. And I'm just pointing out, therefore, that obviously I don't want these two men to never meet again, because this is a father and a son. I don't think that Charles should have granted Harry an audience on this occasion. But I think that if Harry does a lot of work, a lot of bridge building, does a big apology, offers Charles to divorce Meghan, who knows what the peace deal would look like, but substantial contrition would be required and a lot of work and a lot of time. Now is not the time. But on the other hand, I can understand why Harry's desperate to meet his father, because it'll be weighing on him, the fact that his dad's not getting any younger and he's in California and dad's in England. And by the way, if Harry's in California, if Charles is in Blinking Balmoral, good luck getting there quickly. That's in rural Scotland. It's just one thing to get yourself over to England. You then got to navigate our completely collapsing infrastructure here in the UK. You've got to get yourself up to Scotland. It's not easy. So in terms of Harry, this has absolutely got to happen. But will it happen? Well, it's a race against time. And here is the big thing to consider. Are you sick of biased news? Well, so am I. And that's why every morning, with my big cup of decaf in my Father's Day mug that I actually bought for myself, I read Ground News. It shows how stories are covered differently by the left, the right and the centre. Take this one, for example, President Donald Trump's tariff crusade. Some outlets say that he's mad and is wrecking the economy. Others say that he's standing up for American jobs and will triumph. Well, Ground News shows both sides and lets you decide, because it turns out you've got a brain. Who knew? So try Ground News. Go to ground.news/Dolan or click the link below. You will get a 40% off discount from the Vantage plan. 40% off for the plan that I use for unlimited access. It is a game-changing way to consume the news. And more importantly, it will make you sound very clever at dinner parties. Ground News is subscriber funded. No billionaire overlords pulling the strings. Just the unvarnished truth from every angle. What's not to like? That is ground.news/Dolan. I'll drink to that. Notwithstanding Charles's health, and let's hope that in 2027 Charles is still with us. But what if Charles's health worsens? What if his condition worsens? This is, for Harry, right now, where we are today, in the next 20 hours, this is a rare opportunity for Harry to still see his dad whilst he's well. whilst he's got his faculties, he's got his marbles, and he's in relatively good health. So I actually, although I'm furious with Harry for his behavior, don't think he deserves an audience with the king. I can understand why he wants it. Because he's like, well, I need to see my dad while he's here, and I need to see my dad while he's here and while he's well. Because my poor old man, he fell ill, and his faculties left him in the final months. So actually, just being there at the end is not really the answer. You need to be with your parent and your loved one whilst they're still with it, and whilst they're still, cogent and coherent, and whilst you're still able to say, Dad, I love you, I'm really sorry, and I love you, and for Dad to go, well, William, Harry, thank you so much for saying you're sorry. I am really glad that you've finally shown some contrition. You've obviously been watching the Mark Dolan show, and he's been dropping some truth bombs. And finally, you've shown a bit of, common sense. So that's what you want, because Charles at the moment, he's on it. He's not heavily medicated. He's being treated for cancer, but he's in good shape. And by the way, and here's the thing, he could be for years and years and years. But Harry doesn't know that. And no one knows that. I don't know that. You don't know that. Charles's oncologist doesn't know that. Really? What do the medics know? It's guesswork, isn't it? They do a good job. I love the nurses. I love the doctors. But you get, when I was ill in America and I got my throat was completely awful infection in my throat. I got about 3 different opinions from 3 doctors. And, so they don't know. They don't know how Charles is, really. Yeah, they're monitoring and this and that. But no, you couldn't put a time on it. It could be 20 years. It could be a year. Who knows? Who knows? So here's the thing, right? And this is what we've got to lock into. It's very clear why Harry wants this meeting. I get it. But it's a massive, massive imponderable as to whether Charles wants it. Does Charles want a meeting? Let me know in the comments. What does Charles want? Do you think, as we have a race against time, do you think that Charles wants to meet Harry? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. What does Charles want? I need to know from you in the comments, what does Charles want? And I'll be reading your comments with great interest because I'm not sure what he wants. I don't know whether he wants to see Harry or not. I don't know if he's angry or if he's in a forgiving state. I don't know if he's confused. What does Charles want? It is a massive dilemma for him, for Charles, for several reasons. The aforementioned health condition. The fact that he's in his 70s, we don't live forever. The fact that blood is thicker than water, and whatever the conflict that's happened in your life, this is your son, and you are the father. I've got 2 sons. In order to protect their privacy, we call them Elton and Bernie. And my connection to them is very fundamental. I love them very, very much indeed. I love them infinitely. There's no vocabulary available to demonstrate how much I love them. My boys. And so if things, fell apart in our relationship with either Elton or Bernie, could be Elton, probably more likely Bernie because he's I don't like it. I'm joking. It's a joke. If something happens with either of the boys, we get on great. And, but let's say we fell out. Let's say that Elton fell in love with a Z-list TV actress from the United States. And she's like, oh, Elton Dolan is my husband. I call him E.D. Elton Dolan. He's my husband. Oh my God. I have realized, and I got 2 sons, it is possible, isn't it? It is possible that our Meghan Markle type personality will enter my life and enter the court of King Dolan. Or is it King Mark? It'd be King Mark, wouldn't it? King Dolan sounds better. I don't know why. They're not married off yet. They're teenagers, okay? But there's going to be girlfriends, and there's going to be wives. Just imagine if my eldest, Elton, goes for a kind of Meghan type. Can you imagine? What I'll be searching the country and the world for Princess Catherine types. In fact, have you got a daughter? You got a daughter or a sister? Give me the details in the comments. Offer up your daughters, please, to Elton and Bernie, because I need some help with this. I cannot have either of my sons marrying someone like my husband. Didn't you know I'm not Meghan Markle anymore? I'm Meghan Dolan. Ooh. Offer up your daughters, please, in the comments for marriage to my two sons. I'd appreciate it. It would be great. I've got to protect them. There's so many tricky girls out there. And by the way, just as many tricky boys. The problem is human beings, not the gender. Let's be clear about that. But, if we fell out, my sons and I, and if they went off and married someone like Meghan and moved to America and said outrageous things about our family and that I was a terrible father or something, all of that stuff, lied about us. If my sons did a Harry, blood is still thicker than water. I will always love them. And deep down, there's always a way back, I have to say. And I suspect that's what Charles is thinking right now. Irrespective of his anger, when it's your son, I don't think that you can 100% excommunicate your own child. I don't think it's possible. I really don't. Even if they committed a crime, right, and they tried to kill you and they wound up in prison, still your kid. I know that's an extreme example, but it is. You cannot sever that bond. So maybe that's weighing on Charles. Charles also is a bit of a philosopher. And maybe Charles is thinking, life's too short for this. Life is too short. It could also be that he wants peace in his final years, which he did say to the boys. That was quoted, wasn't it, in one of those excellent royal biographies, which is, when he said to William and Harry, "Boys, please, stop fighting like rats in a sack. Please don't make my final years a misery." Forget about it. We'll meet again. So, maybe that's what he thinks. He wants peace in his final years, and he thinks that life is short. And maybe he wants to end this ridiculous soap opera, right? Because it is a soap opera, isn't it? With Harry and Meghan, my husband, and with William and Catherine and all the brickbats and all the propaganda and the Sussex PR machine. Maybe he just wants to call time on this ridiculous soap opera. But I've got news for you, King Charles. Your Majesty, I've got news for you. If you grant Harry a meeting in the next 20 hours, you won't end the soap opera. You will restart the soap opera. You'll re-energize it. It's a reboot, like when Bobby Ewing was having a shower and her last 2 years didn't happen. God, I love Dallas. What a show. I love Larry Hagman. Are you ready for the shortest Larry Hagman story? An incredibly talented actor, so charismatic as J.R. Ewing, bit of a drinker, and he had a routine when he was making Dallas, when he was playing J.R. Ewing, which is that he was an alcoholic and he would drink. So what he would do, drink all the time, but he'd get up extra early on a filming day, and obviously work comes first. So he gets up at like 6 a.m. He get extra early, got up to learn his lines. And he knows his lines by 8 a.m., at which point he can have his first glass of champagne. So Larry Hagman was such a rock star, not encouraging this lifestyle, but he was such a rock star that he set his alarm early to learn the lines so that he could then get stuck into the Bollinger, right? And then he basically would spend the day grazing on champagne, Larry Hagman. And if you watch reruns of Dallas, you will see how he is basically slightly drunk. Yeah, loaded. He's blasted. And it actually almost adds to the performance because he's got these watery eyes. And he'd be like, "Get out of my office, Bobby Ewing." This oil well is not for sale, Cliff Barnes. Honestly, he had these kind of smoky, drunken eyes, which I thought was acting. It turns out he was in drink, as the English say. Anyway, so that was Larry Hagman. But a few things to say. First of all, it did not in any way dilute his talents. His body of work, notwithstanding his issues with alcohol. And by the way, if you're struggling with alcohol, always reach out for help, because there's always help there. And for an awful lot of people, you're better off not having it in your life, and you don't need it. It's the emperor's new clothes. So let's be clear about that, right? I like a beer. It's fun, but it's not really compatible with any of your big life goals. It doesn't make you smarter or cleverer or funnier or more attractive. So, I like a beer, but I'm not going to, it's no great panacea for the human condition, really. And for some people, it gets on top of them. And what you need to do is you need to just get out. Anyway, so Larry Hagman, though, so he was a bon vivant, and he drank his way through decades after decades of movies and TV shows. And he was the kingpin of Dallas. It was a massive show. It was, at one point, I think, #1 show on Earth, because there was that episode, Who Shot J.R. Ewing? And we were talking about it in England, and they was talking about it in America and Canada and Australia, and it was everywhere. France, across Europe. Dallas was huge. Anyway, the reason why I told you this, that I love Larry Hagman, not just for his wonderful charisma, that character of J.R. Ewing, one of the all-time great TV characters, and that amazing face of his, and the charm, and I love Larry Hagman. But I loved him even more when I found this out, which is that because of his drinking issues, he finally got sober, which is a huge achievement. And then after that, his liver broke down. So they gave him a new liver. He got a new liver. And there he is with a new liver. Larry Hagman doesn't drink alcohol, complete teetotal with a new liver, enjoying many, many more years of life. Wonderful. Anyhow, a few years after that, like maybe 10, 15 years after that, the replacement liver started to degrade and stop working properly. And his doctor got him in for a meeting and said, "Mr. Hagman, the donor liver is, I'm afraid, not fit for purpose. We're going to need to put a new liver in, right? A second replacement liver." Do you know what Larry Hagman said? No word of a lie. Larry Hagman, J.R. Ewing, he said, "No thanks." He said, "I already got my second chance. Give it to someone else." What? Larry Hagman didn't take a second liver, and he's a multimillionaire. He could have paid for that 100 times over. He's like, I've had my second chance. Isn't that remarkable? Don't you just love Larry Hagman? Anyhow, speaking of soap operas, if this meeting happens, it will re-energize this ridiculous soap opera. Okay, first of all, it will elevate Harry's status. He becomes King Charles's son again. The optics of him at Clarence House. And it's like, oh yeah, he is the king's son, and HRH and all of that CRAP. Duke of Sussex. Oh, yes, I'm Duke of Sussex. I was always the spare. So it elevates him. It reminds everyone that he's a royal. It gives him that dignity, which he's lost since he moved to America. It rewards Harry for his disgusting behavior. You should never reward bad behavior. It makes him relevant again, because no one's talking about Harry, right? He's got no job. Sentibale, what's the situation with Sentibale? What's up with Sentibale? Well, let me tell you. It's a charity he co-founded in memory of his mother, Diana, and it's a smoking ruin of a charity and a public relations dumpster fire, right? He's losing his grip on Invictus. Half of them want him out because he's made it all about him, and he's very political, and Meghan dances around with her perfectly excellent working body around these injured troops going, "Look, my arms work so well. I've got 2 legs and they're very energetic. You're welcome." So Harry's status will be raised. It makes him relevant again, which he needs. It also yields to the will of Meghan, right? This meeting between Harry and Charles will be good for Meghan. And what's good for Meghan is really bad for the royal family. What's good for Meghan is really bad for Britain. What's good for Meghan is really bad for Harry. What's good for Meghan is really bad for Charles, William, and Catherine. What's good for Meghan is terrible for the monarchy. And so she'll have her way if this meeting happens, because it energizes her brand as well. Because her brand is collapsing, and I've got a deep dive. Once Harry's back in America, I'm doing a special show on Meghan, because things are not rosy in the Meghan garden, let me tell you. The other issue is this meeting will deliver material for a new book, Spare 2. It creates a nightmare for William, because William's going to be king one day, and it brings Harry back into the royal fold. Then William's got to sort that mess out. And it's going to also potentially lead to more accusations, because Harry could get in, and then he gets back to America, because he meets Charles, and he gets back to America, and he says to Meghan, "Oh, it was really awful, actually, with my dad, because he was so racist again. They're all a bunch of racists, the royal family." What did they say? What did they say? "Oh, they wanted to know whether Archie would look more like me than you." "Oh, that's so racist. Oh, we better write a book about it, Harry. I know you're not going to write it because you don't do sentences. But what you could do is sketch out some ideas with a crayon, and then somebody that's actually got some qualifications, who understands English grammar, who can write it for you, and it will write Prince Harry on the outside of the book." And also, the other reason why I'm worried about this happening in the next 24 hours is Harry is so unpredictable. He's gone mad. We know that from the BBC interview in which we had he said conspiracy theories about how he's been the victim of an establishment stitch up. Get over yourself. Forget about it. And it just, it feeds the monster is what it does. A meeting between Charles and Harry. Why are my eyes closed? It feeds the monster if the two meet. The monster of Meghan, the monster of Harry, their narcissistic egos. Don't do it, Charles. You got 20 hours till freedom. And then that spoiled, privileged numpty is back on a plane on his way to Montecito. And he's going to be at the airport at Heathrow. And he's going to be in duty free buying many bottles of gin, because let me tell you, Meghan's a drinker. She puts it away. Forget about Larry Hagman. I'll tell you who needs a new liver and a heart. Meghan Markle. "My husband, I'll have another drink, thank you. This oil well is not for sale, Cliff Barnes. I'm more drunk than Sue Ellen." Don't do it, Charles. Well, by the time of tomorrow's show, we will know whether the meeting happened or not. And I'll be bringing full reaction. Please like and subscribe. If you're new to the show, welcome to the family. Daily shows, Sunday to Thursday inclusive, 6 p.m. UK time. And what time do we go out on the west coast of the United States? 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. on the East Coast, I believe. I've lost track of time. I've lost control. I can't lie. And the other thing to say is, if you do watch the show regularly, please subscribe as well, because it helps the video to get out to more people. I'd love that. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you for your incredible support. If I've got time tomorrow, I'm going to get some of your comments in as well, because your comments are incredible, including some very moving comments about what some of you are going through in your own lives, because life is tough and life is hard. And some of you are having a tough time, and I'm going to shout out one or two of you in a very soon to come video. But I'll be back tomorrow at the usual time. And until then, we'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.